So today we're going to talk a little bit about the number one reason that Big Four consultants fail industry interviews. So let's just paint a picture here. You've updated your CV, you've applied for the role, you've bypassed HR, you've even done the interview perhaps, and then you're waiting for feedback and you hear crickets. You've either been rejected or even worse, you get ghosted. Now, the number one reason and the most likely explanation for that happening to you is fluffy and unstructured answers at the interview stage. So today I'm going to talk a little bit about a couple of fixes that you can implement at that interview stage to land that dream role in the industry even more quickly. For anyone new here, I'm George. I spent 8 years at the Big Four in both London and Sydney before I moved to a senior role in industry in just 5 weeks thereafter. So I know a little bit about, let's just say I know a little bit about how to structure your interview questions for industry like an operator rather than just being a consultant. So let's just get into a couple of fixes that you guys can also implement. And let's start with number one. The first fix you can do, which is nice and quick and easy, is using active direct language rather than passive language. So instead of saying assisted, facilitated, helped, let's use led, direct, and owned, stuff that showed that you're an operator that owned a particular outcome rather than in consulting being an advisor, essentially. So stripping away all that passive language and using more outcome-driven language is probably the number one fix, and this applies not just at the CV phase, but also very much so at that interview phase, because it shows that you own the outcome and it shows that you know what you're doing in the interviews, essentially. Okay, and alongside with that, let me just also reiterate that you need to use I rather than we. We all know this, and you know exactly what I'm talking about here. At the Big Four, when you're talking in a meeting or in an email or whatever that situation may be, you always say we. You're like, we were part of a team. We delivered X outcome. We implemented said roadmap. In industry interviews, you want to use I. Okay, so make sure you're using that. I know it seems like a small thing, but it makes a massive difference. Okay. And it just shows that you were responsible rather than someone else potentially. All right. You'll even see that when you actually do move into your role in industry. I've definitely noticed this myself. Even when like writing emails, I don't know, you're sending your manager a deliverable that you've been working on, you'll say I. There's not as much we unless you're referring to like a whole team for something specific. So that's just a bit of a cultural shift, but it does make a difference at that interview stage as well. So a couple of quick fixes there as well, but make a massive difference at that interview phase. Now, the second fix I want to talk a bit about today is how to actually structure your interview questions properly. So you can use the STAR method, and I swear by this personally. I've always used this and it's worked really well for me. So that, for anyone that doesn't know, the STAR method is essentially you outline the situation, then the task, then the action, then the results. And after you practice this a few times, whether you're prepping for an interview or you've taken a few interviews in industry, it just becomes second nature after a while, and you'll naturally gravitate toward using this structure in your answers. But it does actually also work. Now, one thing I want to point out here is what a lot of Big Four consultants do is they spend 80% of the time outlining the situation, the high level stuff like, you know, the program, etc. Let's flip this the script here, okay? Let's only spend 20% on the situation, but spend 80% on the action and the result. That's what industry recruiters want to hear about, not about the high level outline of the project or the program you're working on, but what you actually did in that project, okay, and the outcomes that you delivered. All right. So as you're preparing for your industry interviews, just keep that one in mind as well. So flip the script there. Spend your 80% of your time should be on the action and the result, the tangible benefits, whether they're hard benefits, soft benefits, and any ROI as well, return on investment. Okay, and you should be putting numbers to these things where possible as well. If you could back anything up with some sort of hard metrics, it just strengthens your case. Okay, so that's probably a big one, I would say as well. So those are a couple of fixes that you guys can implement and will honestly increase your success massively at that interview stage. Now, what I want to go to next is I want to showcase you guys a few examples of interview questions and answers as well. So I've prepared a few fairly common good interview questions. You'll probably get these in a lot of roles you're applying to. Obviously, it depends on the role. but these are pretty common questions, more kind of competency based, but will help industry hiring managers gauge your experience based on whatever you've delivered in the past. And you're likely to get probably some variation of these in your interviews at some stage. So what we're going to go through is I'm going to go through 3 examples today. I'm going to show you what a bad answer would be and what a good answer will be thereafter, so that you can replicate this in your interviews and massively increase the chance of success and landing that dream role. So with no further ado, let's just get into it. So as you can see, this is question 1 here, where the question is, tell me about a time you improved a process. It's a fairly generic question, but you might get some sort of variation of this at the interview stage. Now, a bad answer, and one that isn't tailored to an industry role and is pretty fluffy and consultant-like, is I supported the client's transformation journey by facilitating stakeholder workshops and managing the PMO to ensure alignment on best practices. So there's a lot of consulting jargon in there, like alignment, transformation journey, stuff that is great at the Big Four, right? And the partners absolutely love hearing these words, but if you're applying for a role in industry, no, it's far too generic and fluffy. It's not going to get you anywhere, okay? Now, the strong answer, I've just marked up an example here. So I owned a process improvement initiative, it might be a BA for example, for the finance division. I used Lean Six Sigma principles to map their bottlenecks, which revealed a massive redundancy. And I engineered a new operating rhythm that reduced operational costs by $2 million annually. You see the difference here? It's quite a big difference, right? It's obviously structured, still using the STAR method here, but it's backed up. It's going specifically into the detail here as well, okay? So it's very clear exactly the situation, the task, the action, and the outcomes result. And we can put some hard metrics. We've got the $2 million figure there as well. Okay, so you can clearly see the difference there. And apart from outlining the situation up front, which is owning that initiative, the rest is spent on the actual task, the action, and the result thereafter as well. And that's what you guys should be doing as well. Now, one thing to bear in mind, and I was trying to think of a way that I can explain this properly, right? So how do you know if your answers are too high level or not? So yeah, okay, you're using the STAR framework, but it's still hard to know whether you should be going more granular. And the way I would explain this to someone still at the Big Four and interviewing for industry roles is, let's just say you're practicing your answers, you're aware of what I've told you today. If you're still not sure whether your answers are too high level, they probably are. I would go one more level down if you can. When you're explaining and when you're rehearsing your answers and practicing for these interviews, ask yourself how and so what to any of your answers, okay? If there's still additional explanation that you can give, it probably means that you need to go a bit more specific with your answers. So what happened to me in the past is actually for my current role, my senior business analyst role that I'm currently in, what happened is the hiring manager in my interview actually asked me to go specifically into more detail because I wasn't giving enough at the time as well. Okay, so that's just a little heads up for you guys as well, so you don't have to make the same mistake as me. Go specific. If you can ask how and so what, and there's still scope for explanation, then you're probably not going into enough detail. So just practice rehearsing that in your own time as well, and it'll become more second nature over time. But yeah, you can clearly see the level of detail that's required. So I'm just going to go into example 2. So we've got another one. So how do you handle complex data to drive decisions, or explain a time where you had to handle complex data to drive decisions? A very common competency-based questions that you might expect in an interview, right? So a bad answer here is, I assisted the engagement team by updating the tracker and putting together PowerPoint decks to show leadership the data trends related to the finance department. It's super generic. Again, talking about PowerPoint decks, like what PowerPoint decks? Like what's the so what? What were the outcomes you were trying to achieve? Like, I have no idea what even was trying to be achieved here, right, with this answer. Now, a strong answer would be, the finance department was losing 40 hours a week to manual reporting. That's the situation. I stepped in and built automated Power BI dashboards and deployed UiPath bots to handle the data extraction. And this eliminated manual entry entirely and gave the executive team real-time visibility into the top 3 KPIs. So I use an automation example here because I work in the automation space, but you can clearly see what was trying to be achieved and the outcomes that were achieved as well. And we've got some hard metrics as well. We've got the 40 hours in the situation. We've got 3 KPIs as the result as well. And it's very clear what you did to achieve that outcome. And it's outlined step by step. So you can clearly, again, see the difference. It's specific and it's outcome driven. So let's just go on to example 3. I've got one more, and hopefully you guys are starting to get a bit of a flavor how you guys can do this yourselves in your interviews as well. So here we've got, tell me about a time you managed difficult stakeholders. And I'm pretty sure in a lot of interviews, some variation of this question is going to come up, right? We've all been there, so you know exactly what I'm talking about. Now, a bad answer would be, I had weekly touch points with the project sponsors to manage expectations and ensure everyone was comfortable with the deliverables. Again, I mean, cool, you did some stakeholder management, very consulting, fluffy, weekly touch points as well. Great, and the consulting role, that's cool. Again, doesn't really tell you much. What were the outcomes and like what were you trying to achieve with any of this as well? Doesn't really tell you much. Now, the strong answer would be, we were facing a 3-month delay on a system rollout because 2 departments were fighting over requirements. Didn't just decide to schedule more meetings. I built a quantified risk model showing them that every week of the delay cost the business 50k. And I put that data on the table and drove consensus within 48 hours. And we executed the rollout on time and on budget. As you can see, much more outcome driven, much more specific here. We use the word I as well consistently throughout, and we explained it in sequence. Situation, lots of metrics here to explain the action and the result as well, and it's clear what we were trying to achieve and the actual outcomes that were achieved as well. Okay, now that would be an example of a very strong answer. Okay, so hopefully you guys have got a bit of, through these 3 examples, you've got a bit of a flavor of how to answer these interview questions in industry well and give yourself the maximum chance of success and land that dream role as quickly as possible. Ultimately, it just comes down to using active language as much as possible, structuring your interview questions like a pro, so use that STAR method, just rehearse it, get good at it, let it become second nature as well, and just being hyper specific with your answers. Like if you're going to take away something that I think is very important from this video, just remember that. Just be hyper specific. If you're questioning whether you're being specific enough, you're probably not. Go one level of detail down in your answers, okay? And the only way you're going to do that is by practicing offline as well. You guys can download interview questions online, practice at home before, so you go into those interviews and you've got some variation of a question that you know is going to come up, right? I mean, a lot of these interviews have very common questions, like the one we've got here as well. Now, if you want to know the exact way you can map your current skills to industry roles and know which roles are actually relevant based on your experience, and you maybe want some help dressing up that experience as well in your interviews and also that CV and also the CV stage beforehand, then you can book a call. You can book a call with me directly. The link's actually in my YouTube bio, and what we'll do is we'll co-create a tailored roadmap based on your situation, so you can translate your experience effectively and land that dream role in industry in 60 days. Now, the other thing I want to call out is if you want a free roadmap that outlines how I did it based on my experience, how I landed that key industry role in 5 weeks, and you want to replicate that yourself, and also you just want to learn a bit more about the stealth exit protocol, which is the mechanism that we would apply to your situation to help you land that role in 60 days, then you can head over to my website. It's actually georgeoptimize.com. So easy to remember. It's all the links in my YouTube bio as well. Head over there, you can download a free roadmap. It's essentially a 6 or 7 page PDF that outlines how I landed that industry role quickly, how you can do the same and replicate it to your particular situation to drive at the outcomes you're looking for. So I hope you found today's video helpful. Go practice those interview questions at home, get good at them, let them become second nature, and you'll land that industry role you're looking for in no time. So again, hope you found today's video helpful, and I'll see you in the next one.